Loaded show. Onorato and Company, Chris Onorato, Ashley Miller. So much to get to from Major League Baseball's winter meetings, especially. The college football playoff matchups are now set. We've got the hysterical Joe Gatto, comedian from Impractical Jokers, on the show this week. And what am I forgetting, Ash?
Triple D.
We've got
Triple D. We've got NFL picks.
Yeah, we've got the Firewolf segment as well. We'll be talking with Ethan Walker. And the Christmas decorations are up in the Onorato household. You can see the tree and the stockings behind Ash. Let's get going.
This is Onorato and Company, brought to you by Albany House.
Our guest picker this week will be from Performance Industrial, one of our local business partners on the show. That's coming up midway through the show. But we get things started here the way we should, and that is with the big news that has happened in San Diego, Major League Baseball's winter meetings. More than $1.5 billion spent on 18 players in San Diego at Major League Baseball's winter. I love the winter meetings. I am glued to MLB Network and to Twitter for the entirety of the winter meetings. And this was a really good one.
Yeah, it was really good, but it's not hard to believe that $1.6 billion was spent when you're looking at contracts of $360 million, $280 million. That money flies out the door.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Right. You're talking about Judge at 360, Turner at 300, Bogaerts at 280.
Yep.
Here are the big names, right? That signed. Judge is back to the Bronx, and I tweeted this out. Like you couldn't be the general manager that let Aaron Judge leave this franchise. So he takes less money to stay a member of the Yankees and to presumably get the captain of that ball club. Haven't seen one since Jeter. The Mets load up on the rotation. They get Verlander and Quintana. I'm sure they aren't done, but they'll make minor moves from here. Phillies are loaded up to try to repeat as NL champions by getting Trey Turner, maybe the best for me, he's the best shortstop on the market. And they add Taijuan Walker and a bullpen piece as well. Cardinals pull a guy from the Cubs in Wilson Contreras, and the Padres didn't get Judge and they didn't get Turner, and they said, we are still ready to spend, and they went and got Xander Bogaerts. It was a very interesting few days in San Diego.
Yeah, and I think, listen, we saw a report from John Heyman that Judge was headed to the Giants for about 5.5 seconds. Judge was a San Francisco Giant, which was a little bit wild. And I think you hear the rumblings of like reports. A lot of the reports had Bogaerts going back to Boston, and all of a sudden I wake up in the middle of the night and Bogaerts is a Padre. Not surprising because, like you said, the Padres lost out on a few people that they went after. The Giants are the ones who have yet to get anyone. It's like always a bridesmaid, never a bride for that team. Mitch Haniger, okay, but like he wasn't one of the top names on the free agent market. So they certainly haven't done enough to win. There are names left out there, but they haven't done enough to win yet. We haven't talked about Jacob deGrom going to a Rangers team that has massive contracts on the books, and yet I still don't think they're ready to win. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants are an interesting case for me because I felt like if they were to get Judge, they might try to pile on from there. When they didn't get Judge, I think they might say, okay, let's stand pat. We're not in a position to necessarily win. They bring Jock Peterson back on the qualifying offer, but unless I'm wrong and unless Correa and Swanson are in play for them, I don't think they really are. I think the Giants kind of sit back and say, okay, we'll take our swing kind of the next time around here. I would expect Carlos Rodon to now go somewhere else as well. And so, you said it. Maybe the Giants are the ones kind of left holding the bag a little bit after these winter meetings. So you're right. deGrom signs on Friday with the Rangers, 5 years, $185 million. Rangers have to overpay. because I mean, when's the last time they had good pitching? You can't remember it. They've signed guys who you thought, oh, maybe this will work out. It never did. So you spent a ton of money on Seager and Simeon last year. You have to try to win. You needed pitching. DeGrom is the one way you can try to do that.
Yeah, I think so. And for me, it was a good move. Looking at the contract that he got from Texas, it's a good move that the Mets didn't pay him that. This is a guy who made, and I saw this stat and I was like, wow, that's crazy. He made 6 starts last year and they still won 100 games. Like, they didn't need Jacob deGrom to be good. Had he been healthy, do they not lose in the playoffs as early as they do? Yeah, maybe. But to replace him days later with a guy like Justin Verlander, and I'll take Justin Verlander, who minus the one season where he had Tommy John, threw a ton last year and was really, really good. He looked like the Justin Verlander of old. I'll take my chances, we'll call it, on a 2-year, $86 million contract over the 5-year, $185 that DeGrom got. Because I know Verlander's old, but just having just last year, just using last year as the sample size, I want the recent success and the recent, health of Verlander over DeGrom.
3-time Cy Young Award winner to go along with a 3-time Cy Young Award winner in Max Scherzer, Jose Quintana as well, which I think
that's a super underrated signing.
Sneaky, really good signing. I would have loved to have had Quintana in the Braves rotation at 2 years, $26 million. There is a third year for Verlander if the Mets want to pick it up at $35 million. All right, so maybe you've already hit it, but do you have a big takeaway from these winter meetings that you haven't already discussed?
I mean, I think the Phillies and the Mets are the biggest winners so far of the winter meetings. I feel like both of those teams are loaded up. The Mets have their Mets rotation is better than it was last year in my mind because Jacob deGrom didn't throw last year. So to me, it's better than it was last year. And I think the Phillies, when you just look at the star power of that lineup, they already had JT Realmuto. They already had Bryce Harper. Now they added Trey Turner, who, aside from being a phenomenal shortstop, is one of the best offensive weapons that will be on that team. So to me, that division got infinitely more interesting. And now the Braves have to start thinking man, we got to do something, whether it's bring back Dansby or bring in Correa. If we don't get, there has to be something done, I think, for the Braves to keep pace in that division.
Yeah, I'm with you. Atlanta can't just sit around and hope that what they've got is good enough. Kenley Jansen leaves for Boston. They did then trade for a reliever in Detroit. And they have Jose Iglesias, who will be the closer. Raisel Iglesias, who will be the closer they got at the deadline last year from Anaheim. So there is work to do if Atlanta is going to make it 6 straight NL East championships. My biggest takeaway here is players are choosing the place, not the money. Both Judge and Turner left money on the table to go to a location destination of choice. Judge said,
but Philly's not a destination over LA.
He's an East Coast guy. He's got family in New Jersey. I think that was a real concerted decision. Hey, I'm going to the East Coast. I've spent the last few years in LA. And if my other great offer is San Diego compared to Philly, I'd rather be on the East Coast. He left back in the day, 20 years ago, the Players Association would never let guys get away with this. They would say you have to take the biggest offer because it provides for more opportunities down the road for other free agents. Judge left $40 million on the table and an extra year. And Turner got $300, but maybe he was going to get $330 from somebody. I mean, an absurd amount of money. And he said, I'm good. I'd rather pick the place where I want to go. And maybe Philadelphia, okay, not to tick off Philly people, isn't necessarily a destination. It wouldn't be for me. But when you put him into that lineup, Ash, right, if the Dodgers weren't really trying to keep him, okay, if I can't be in that Dodgers lineup, give me this Phillies lineup.
Yeah.
Think about all the runs he's going to score and bases he's going to steal in that lineup, either hitting first or second behind Schwarber or right in front of him. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and listen, I think it's crazy that you're like, hey, you can't leave money on the table. You have to take the money. Well, there are so many things that go into a decision of what makes a player happy. Yeah. What's the difference? And I say this, and there is a difference, obviously, but the difference between 300 and 340, no different. I mean, no different for a player like that. 40 million, when you talk about just $40 million to me and you is a lot of money. But 300 and 340 at the end of the day, it's more money than you can ever spend, and you're good for life, and so are your kids. So you have to also factor in other things.
Quick thought from Nick here. Same team sign everyone. Rich get richer, need a salary cap. They're trying with this competitive balance tax, but it's not good enough, Nick. To Nick's point, it's not good enough. You're right. The rich will continue to get richer in this sport for now. All right, we had big news break on Thursday morning regarding Brittany Griner. We're getting to that right after the break here in our Performance Industrial Dirty Difficult Done. Back in 30 seconds.
The temperatures are dropping, which means the holidays are right around the corner. 'Tis the season at Albany Ski Shop, where you'll receive up to 50% off top ski and snowboard brands like K2, Vocal, Nordica, and LiveTech. And check out our selection of footwear from Muck and UGG, as well as casual and hiking apparel from Patagonia and the North Face. We also have the latest in winter fashion from Fly Low, Marmot, Obermeyer, and Helly Hansen. And an Alpenhaus gift card is the perfect gift for the adventure on your list. Alpenhaus in Amsterdam and Clifton Park.
And now back to Onorato and Company. Brought to you by Alpenhaus.
All right, let's go. Joe Gatto still on the way, the comedian who is bringing his Night of Comedy tour to the Palace Theater in downtown Albany before the new year. We'll talk with Joe in just a few moments here about the tour, about his career with Impractical Jokers on TV for so long, and why he names all of his dogs after Italian foods. And I did ask him, how many dogs have you had in the house at one time? The number will blow you away. Not even you, Ashley Miller, who loves dogs more than humans, would find this to be an acceptable number. Not even you.
Okay.
Not even you.
We'll see.
We do this each and every single week here on Onorato and Company. It is Performance Industrials, Dirty, Difficult, Done.
And now, Dirty, Difficult, and Done. Presented by Performance Industrial.
Shout out to Bill Miller and his great team at Performance Industrial. There is no job that is too dirty or too difficult for them to get it done. Ash, you're up.
All right, I'm on the clock. And Colorado football has been very difficult to watch in the past 10, 20 years. I'm going to say it will no longer be difficult to watch, and this will happen fast because it's prime time. It's Deion Sanders. Deion leaves Jackson State, which I know there are some people who have an issue with, to take the job at Colorado. It's a better job. It's not a good job in the Pac-12, but it's a better job, and he will make it a destination. We talked about destinations. He's already making it a destination, and the thing I find most amazing about this is he convinces a guy like Sean Lewis, who is a head coach at Kent State, who has Kent State in a position to win and win now at the mid-major level, the FCS, whatever the correct terminology is. He convinces him to leave the head coaching job at Kent State to be his offensive coordinator. He's now just hired an Alabama assistant coach to be his defensive coordinator, and Charles Kelly. He is loaded. Willie Taggart is going to be on this staff. This staff is loaded, and it's clear that Colorado has changed its mindset, because you're not paying these guys nothing to make these moves. These are going to be high-paid assistants, which has to be a change from the norm for them. And Colorado football is going to be back, and it's going to be back fast.
You saw a picture there in the slideshow of Deion and Snoop. Okay, back in the day when Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and Wendell White and all those USC guys were doing their thing, Snoop was on the sideline constantly, and he'll always be a USC guy. But when you get Snoop to a Jackson State game, Snoop will find his way to Colorado. That culture is going to attract so many teenage football players in this country. Within the first 48 hours of Deion having been announced as the head coach, there were more than 200 contacts from either kids who were ready or thinking about committing at a high school or guys in the transfer portal. Players are they are curious. Like I say, they want to play for him. They are curious about how it's going to go with Coach Prime in Colorado. I think it's going to go well, and I think in the next 3 years he'll be somewhere else. And so this is a stepping stone. You're right. It's not a good job, not a great job, but it was going to.
He'll make it a good job.
When his son is done, he is probably then on to the next school because he will have proven that he can recruit there and will therefore be able to recruit other places as well. It's exciting to watch. All right, this is the news that broke Thursday morning. Brittany Griner freed from a Russian prison, nearly 10 months. And this is good news, okay? We have an American who was wrongfully held in Russia. But it's not great news.
No.
Because this isn't a trade that a commissioner's office would even approve in the world of sports. We are getting Brittany Griner back, and that is great. But the man there, also seen with her on the split screen, is known as the Merchant of Death, Victor Bout, who was in his 11th year of serving a 25-year sentence for having been found guilty of conspiring to sell AK-47s that would then be used to kill DEA agents. So
seems very
great
comparable.
news on the surface to get Brittany Griner back, and I'm glad she's no longer in a Russian prison. But there are two strikes that didn't work out here, and one, it's not an equal trade. Okay, it'd be difficult to find an equal trade for the Merchant of Death. But we also are not getting Paul Whelan back, who is a retired Marine who is, again, being held in Russia. He had a 16-year sentence, and he is in year number 4 of that. He was a retired U.S. Marine. He was attending a friend's wedding in Moscow in December of 2018 and was detained at a hotel in Moscow, accused of espionage, which the U.S. has denied, which Whelan has denied, and we weren't able to get that done. So this is not a political statement.
No.
It's great that Griner is coming back, WNBA star, Olympic champion, as he saw as well. This is big news across the world, and so we are talking about it here on Onorato and Company. Of course, it has a sports angle to it, and so I'm happy that she's coming home. Her wife is thrilled. The Biden administration gets this deal done before Christmas.
I'm sure it's not a deal that they wanted to do either, though. Like and I said this before, I hope Americans learn something from this whole situation, because you've now put your country in a situation where they have to make a decision like this. Not ideal.
Here's my question, and again, not political. I'm going to put it on sports. This deal's been on the table for months.
Yeah, and they just took it. They must have felt like they weren't going to get the Marine at any point.
Merchant of Death for Griner. If there were a trade in the sports world that was on the table for months, and then finally you pull the trigger, you say, well, what took so long?
Right.
Because you didn't upgrade the situation. You're not getting anything better than was previously offered. So what took so long? That's kind of where I am on this.
Yeah, okay. Listen, I think they probably thought they could negotiate it, because 2 for the 1 seems like a fair trade for the offenses, the violations, whatever, the crimes committed by both parties. Seems like 2 for 1 would be a fair trade. So my guess is the U.S. thought they could get 2 for 1, and Russia held its ground. But this is what I mean. Now this is the precedent that we've set. So you have to understand, it feels like Russia isn't going to play fair in this game. So, and not that Whelan did anything wrong either. We don't know that he did anything wrong, but this is what's happening. I'm not going to Russia anytime soon. I'll tell you that much.
International relations with O and Co. Nick is watching. He's got a big hoo-day today. The Bengals with a huge win over the Chiefs on Sunday. Sam is watching. Sam, good morning. Season's greetings to you.
The Bengals got me one of my few wins.
J-Man is on his way to the Grand Canyon. He's up early and watching us. We really appreciate that. All right, we come back here on Onorato and Company. Our conversation with the comedian and hysterical Joe Gatto coming to the Palace Theater on December 30th. We're back in a minute.
Marcella's Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on for cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair. You can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day, like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
You've heard of unsung heroes. The men and women of Nyskoba are the unseen heroes. For the past year, you've learned about our many charitable endeavors. Now it is my privilege to share with you the work performed by our members, the 20,000 state correction and law enforcement officers shielded from view. They work in difficult and dangerous conditions, and are an extension of the police who protect our neighborhoods. Niscoba honors New York's police and firefighters and salutes its own members who help deliver a peaceful night's sleep.
And now back to Onorato Company, brought to you by Albany House.
Back on Onorato Company, it's Chris Onorato, and joined now by the hysterical Joe Gatto.
Here I am.
Coming to Albany, the Palace Theater. It is Joe Gatto's Night of Comedy, Friday, December 30th. Be there at the Palace Theater in downtown Albany. Of course, you know him from Impractical Jokers, the Tenderloins, the Two Cool Moms podcast. If I continue on, we'll run out of time here, Joe. It's so great to see you, man. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Let me just ask you off the rip here. This tour is kind of relentless. I've looked at the schedule, and you're going back to back to back a bunch of times, man. At any point, does this get old for you to be on stage in front of a crowd?
No, I mean, it's been fantastic. I've actually ramped it up because it's been going so well, and the people have been wanting to come out and laugh during these times when we all need it, including myself. So it's been a really fantastic ride to be up there on stage and get in front of everybody.
Obviously, Impractical Jokers was such a huge hit on TV. But I'm curious, like, does funny translate? Because I've seen that you've taken the comedy tour overseas, but even from like Albany, New York, to Arkansas, to Vegas, to London. Does funny translate, or do you have to carefully kind of craft what you're doing?
For my kind of funny, I'm consistently funny enough everywhere I go. I think I think it's been interesting because, you know, with me, people have gotten to on the television show. You really I was me, right? I was Joe, and that's all I am. So people, if you knew me and liked me there, you get an hour of me now by myself. So you get to know me on a different level. And I think that's what translates. It's not like I do like locational humor and stuff. Like some of my jokes, you know, you have to change the wording a little bit. People don't understand a little bit. I have to slow down how fast I speak when I'm out of the Northeast, because I start ripping and I speak really fast and very Italian with my hands. But as far as the stories go, I mean, it's really about, you know, my life on Jokers and my friendship with the boys, and I tell, you know, stories about that, parenting, you know, about my kids, rescuing dogs, and I spend a lot of time on stage talking about the best way to live an awkward life. I spend some of my time up there like a TED Talk, letting you know how to live your best awkward life, because it's the only way to live.
The dogs have a Twitter account.
Yep.
You have a book called The Dog Father.
That's
how
right.
many dogs at one time have you actually had in the house?
30. We have a sanctuary there. It's called Gatto Pups and Friends. We've just launched our nonprofit, and you know, it's been through there. We've got lots of dogs that are just, you know, mostly seniors. So they just sit around, get their belly rubbed, nap, wake up, eat. You know, it's kind of interesting. It's not like we have a bunch of like huge Great Danes running around. So they're mostly a bunch of lazy dogs that just need a little bit of love at the end of their lives. And it's been really great. It's been a really great journey to do that for them, and rewarding on both sides. There's nothing like the love of a rescue dog, man. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you said it. And what I love too is you have kind of named all of these dogs the way we all generally feel. We just want to lay around and have our bellies rubbed after too many cannolis or too much pasta or whatever. Why the names of what they are?
Well, they're all named after Italian desserts and pasta dishes, because that's on brand for me. It wouldn't make much sense if they're named after like exercise routines, right? I couldn't have, you know, treadmill push-ups. Like, that doesn't make sense, you know. So I got them all. You know, there are a bunch of them: cannoli, biscotti, spumoni, the brother and sister fettuccine alfredo. Like, we got them all.
Do you go cannolis with or without chocolate chips?
I'm a classic guy, so they normally with the chocolate chip in there, and I do enjoy it. But I'll take a cannoli anyway they're made, you know.
So here's what you do, man. When you get to Albany, make sure your team either stops at Bella Napoli or Bellini's. Those are the two spots that I'll recommend in the general area of the theater where you can get a good cannoli.
You know, for me, whenever in my rider, you know, the thing that you tell people when you show up at a venue what you need in your green room. I always, one of the bullet points on my rider is an assortment of local pastries.
There it is. Bella Napoli is your place then.
Oh, go Bella Napoli it is, man. I'm excited now. Oh, I can't wait for it. I'll end my year strong there before I take the stage.
Exactly. Yeah. Before you get into the New Year's resolutions, eat some cannolis. We mentioned the podcast. It's Two Cool Moms. I'm curious, what is the worst piece of maternal advice you've given, despite having thought it was good advice?
We actually heard back from one person. It's funny because you forget, like, people can get back in touch with you after you're not giving it to them just in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, that didn't work out. We had a guy who was complaining about a situation at work, and we told him that, the best thing to do is just to be upfront with their boss and, say, this was the issue I was having or something like that. And then we heard back from them saying that they did that. And then the person the next day came up to them and was like, hey man, why didn't you just come to me when we could have worked it out? Like, why'd you have to go to my boss? We didn't even think of that part. We weren't even like, oh, go to the person that you got the problem with. We're like, oh, just go to your boss and tell them. So we made this person a snitch, which is so off brand for me as an Italian. You rat. So it was I was like, oh, why didn't we tell them to go to that person? So yeah, that was a misstep.
Can you give me the genesis of that podcast? Why kind of that perspective you guys are tackling?
I've always heard from people that I'm a consigliere for a lot of people, right? I'm somebody that people come to, and I try to give the best advice for them and try to help them out. And I'm mainly a positive person, especially through all the stuff I've been through in my life. And I try to keep a positive outlook. And my mom was always just such a strong force that way. You get through it day by day, stay strong, keep it going, be kind to people and things. So I think it just got embedded in me in such a way that once I had a platform, I had always preached that, and I've done it for my friends in my circle. But now that I'm so connected with my fans, I feel like a friend to a lot of fans. So I think people kind of relied on me for that, just not only to give them laughter and whatnot, but my perspective and, advice, if you will, or not even just seeing what I do and being out there and be like, look, I've failed and, things happen and you just got to keep going. So yeah. I just think people take to that.
All that good stuff, the podcasts, all the even shorter videos on Joe's YouTube channel. You want to follow him on Twitter and Instagram. It's simple. Both platforms at Joe_Gatto. I'm going to dovetail right into what you led me into, which I wanted to ask you about. Have you ever gotten, maybe you're still getting pushback from people who are like, just make me laugh. I don't want to deal with the serious stuff, because I know you're obviously, look, we talked a little bit about the dogs already, but the anti-bullying stuff that you preach as well, which is so important. Yep. But do you get pushback from people who are like, hey man, aren't you just a comedian? Can't you just make me laugh?
No, I get embraced for that a lot, because I don't talk politics. I don't get into the mix with stuff like that. I'm an escape for people. That's what I am. That's my purpose here, right? I don't get on stage and get up there and I don't do political humor either way. I don't chime in. I don't give advice on those kind of things. I'm more is look, that's not why you're coming to me. There's people out there that know so much more than me. Those are the people to go to if you want to educate yourself in that way. I don't think you care what I think. And I know enough about that. So with the anti-bullying stuff, I speak from a place that's happened to me. I've been bullied. I grew up being bullied, and I turned out okay. So that's really where I do with that. And I do that in those forums. When I talk at the Comic-Con panels with my partners, Pop Culture Hero Coalition, that's when I spend it. And if people ask me about it, I'll talk about it, or if I see something and I think it needs to be addressed. We were on tour and we were walking through a town. I forgot where we were. Oh, Savannah, Georgia. And we were walking down through Georgia, and there was these group of girls, and they were just playing, these teen girls. They're 13, 14. They were all playing together. And as I was walking by, you hear snippets of conversation, right? I'm walking by, and one girl goes, ha ha, now nobody likes you, she said to the girl. And it just stopped me in my tracks. And I turned to her. I said, is that your friend? And she goes, yeah. I said, is that nice to say to your friend? And she goes, well, no, she did it to me first. I'm like, doesn't make it right. Didn't make you feel good, right? And she was like, yeah. And then they just started talking, and she was like, they talked about it, and I walked away. And in hindsight, I was like, oh, that was nice to do. But then I was like, oh, it's also kind of weird because they have no idea who I am. I'm just this middle-aged man stopping talking and correcting other people's children.
Teenage girls. Yeah.
But I mean, it's just part of my life, and I try to do what I can.
No, I love that, man. Savannah is such a cool little town too, isn't it?
Yeah, I had never been.
It's awesome. As you've toured the country, give me a spot that maybe other than Savannah surprised you. I would go back there.
I had just performed. I have now performed live comedy in all 50 states, which is a goal for me.
That's awesome.
Great. Yeah. My last one was North Dakota, which I grabbed. But I went to Wyoming, which I had never been to. And your eyeballs, you just don't understand what you're looking at. Yeah. It's like you're living on a postcard. It's so beautiful. There's so much land, right? Yeah. I'm from, East Coast, New York, right? There's just so much space it's crazy. Like just to see the rolling, the mountains and everything and just feel it all, which is really, really cool for me.
Yeah, I'm small town, northeastern part of New Jersey. Mm-hmm. If you had a quarter of an acre, man, it was like the biggest yard you'd ever.
You're a Rockefeller. You're a landowner. Yeah. You're in the real estate game.
Yeah. All right. So on the New York thing, this is going to run on our sports talk show as well. Sure. Yankees, Mets, Giants, Jets. Where do the allegiances lie?
Yes. Yes. I don't get political. I don't pick sports teams. I don't want to hear nothing. No, I don't really follow sports at all, but I am a hometown guy. If New York's playing, I'm rooting for New York. When they're playing against each other is when it gets interesting. Like there was a Subway Series back in the early 2000s where the Mets and the Yankees were playing each other. Yep. And Sal had gotten together with a bunch of his friends, his guy friends from college they're all like diehard Mets or Yankees, whatever. So everybody shows up and they're wearing the Yankees, like 30 guys in a basement watching the game, right? And they're like in their like Mets or Yankees, whatever. And I showed up with just like an I Love New York t-shirt on. And every time somebody scored, I jumped up and I was like, yeah, yeah, and yelled at each other's faces. And about like the third or fourth run, people realized what was going on. They're like, wait. They're like, Joe, they're like, who do you like? I'm like, I'm going for New York. They're like, you got to pick a team. You got to pick a team. I'm like, I got to go. And I left the party.
But there's nothing like New York sports when it's good, right? I mean, there's nothing like it.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love going out to live games and stuff and cheering people on. But I don't really watch on TV, but like a live football game, I love. I grew up going to a couple games with my dad and stuff, I grew up in a Giants house, but my sister's like diehard Jets fan. So it's like, it's interesting.
Yeah, Long Island, usually Mets and Jets and Islanders. And
Jets, yeah.
Cool. All right, man, before I let you get out of here, when people come to see you at the Palace on December 30th, what are we getting? If all I know of you is kind of the pod or Impractical Jokers, what Joe am I getting? You've said we get an hour of just you. What is that?
Yeah, the good thing about me is I'm consistent, right? Wherever you see me, it's really pretty much who I am. On the TV show, I didn't play a character. Yep. When you hear me on the podcast, it's Joe talking. So if you enjoy me, you get an hour of me. And I guarantee 3 to 5 laughs. That's what you're going to get. Walking in the door, that's in your pocket. And what better way to end the year than just laughing and reflecting? And I'm excited to do it with the people up there in Albany before I finish out the year. So.
I love that, man. Well, you're bouncing around like crazy as you come to us from New Hampshire, which will be the night before. Make sure you get the cannolis and all the other pastries you need to finish the year out strong.
I'm very excited for that.
Now you know it, man. Put that note into your team right now so they're prepared. He's on Cameo. He's got the book, which we mentioned, the podcast, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. He's everywhere. Joe, thank you for the time, man. Everybody go out, get those tickets now. The best way to do it, you see it scrolling the bottom of your screen, palacealbany.org when Joe Gatto's night of comedy comes to town. Joe, thank you, man.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be part of the N Company.
Love it.
Teams, athletes, organizations. We're transforming the custom apparel industry through product and purpose. Claim your crown.
And now back to Onorato & Company. Brought to you by Alpen House.
Funny guy, that Joe Gatto. Again, December 30th. You want to check him out at the Palace. That's where he will be before the new year rings in. All right, Ash, let's get to the NFL picks segment on Onorato & Company.
And now, your weekly NFL Pick'em. Presented by Pick 6 Vodka.
Holly and Serge and the entire team up at Saratoga Courage Distillery and that Pick 6 Vodka that is so good. Here we go, Ash. How are we doing?
Look at that. Pretty good. I mean, my record is still 10 games under 500, but whatever.
5-1 weeks. Pretty good. Ed Reveille from Performance Industrial coming up to be our guest picker this week. We'll show you how those guest picks are going. But for now, let's get into what we think is going to happen in week 14. Jets, Bills. I am on the Jets. That's a big number for me, 9.5. And they're still rolling with Mike White. I think he keeps them competitive in Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm going against kind of what I've done all year. I got off the Buffalo bandwagon because they didn't cover big spreads. And this one felt for me, I wasn't super impressed with the Jets last week. This one felt for me like they could get it done. So
5-point loss at Minnesota. Not terrible. Yeah. Next game on the slate, Eagles, Giants. Eagles favored here by a touchdown to win on the road. We both think they'll cover.
Yeah, I just think, listen, the Eagles are one of the best teams going, have been all season.
Yeah.
That's it.
11-1, and I think they win by a touchdown there as well. And the Giants find a way to hang into the playoff picture, though, still. Browns and Bengals. Deshaun Watson's second game back with Cleveland. You have to figure he'll look better and more comfortable than he did in that game where he was getting booed at basically every snap of the first half.
He didn't look like he had any idea what was going on in that game.
And the Bengals have struggled with Joe Burrow. The Bengals have struggled against Cleveland, but we both like Cincinnati here to cover.
Yeah, Nick's Bengals gave me a nice win last week. I went Bengals over the Chiefs, and that got me a dub. I'm pretty sure. Yep. Well, this is navy because this is Syracuse colors. Again, it's navy. It is navy. It's not black, but the orange is for the Bengals. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Vikings and Lions. This was a pick 'em. I think it's actually swung in favor of Detroit here in the last 24 hours, but we both still say the Vikings on the road, 1 o'clock game. That's important. I know people laugh at that kind of stuff. Kirk Cousins plays better at 1 o'clock. We both think Minnesota wins. Because maybe you're giving us points at this, but we'll take it even at even that the Vikings find a way to beat Detroit, who's playing really well and right on the verge of that NFC playoff picture.
Yep. Listen, I love Detroit this year, but for me, an even money line and a pick 'em game, I'm just going to pick who I think is the better team. Yep. It doesn't mean I don't think Detroit can win because I think they can, but I'm going with the Vikings like you.
Yeah, weather not a factor, obviously. San Francisco and Tampa Bay. Interesting game here. Niners are home, 3.5-point favorites. The line has not moved since the news of Jimmy Garoppolo's basically season-ending injury with a broken foot. Brock Purdy played pretty darn well in relief. I still think the difference here is that Tampa's just not very good. They don't score a lot of points, and I think they score even fewer than normal, if you will, because this defense is really, really good in San Francisco. They're going to win the division, even with Brock Purdy as the quarterback. I think the Niners win and cover at home.
Yeah, for me, the Purdy thing is a little tough. And he looked good, and from everything you've heard from the San Francisco camp, it's that he doesn't seem like a rookie. He seems like a veteran. He comes in, he's calm, cool, collected. The Brady, the Brady drive to end the game for me just kind of gave me that nostalgia of like, well, it's still there. You give him a little and he'll take it all. Yeah. So I'm prisoner of the moment back toward the Bucs.
Yeah, he did that against the Saints Monday night. He did it against the Rams a couple of weeks ago. Dolphins and Chargers here. We both like Miami Sunday night on News Channel 13 and NBC. The Finns are 2.5-point favorites despite being the road team. All right, let's bring in our guest here on Onorato and Company, and it is Ed Reveley from Performance Industrial, where they say dirty, difficult, done. Ed, thanks for hanging out and taking the time with us, man. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. We'll get your thoughts on our picks in a second, but here's what you're up against. These are our guest pickers. Now, as a local business partner to the show, you're facing the Andy Hecks, Nick Matalones, Jeff Vukolic's, novices of the world, not the nonprofits here. So right there doesn't look like stiff competition. 3-3 is the best on the board. But Jimmy Miller posted a 4-2, and then Pick Six a couple of weeks ago, sponsor of the segment, had a perfect 6-0. So that is the number you can't beat it, but that is the number to match here, whether or not you guys can go 6-0. So keep that in mind before we run through your picks here. We say it every week on the show when we do our segment, which is sponsored by Performance Industrial, that there is no job that's too dirty or too difficult for your team to get it done. So from kitchen renovation to cleaning and HVACs and epoxy flooring and all that stuff, give us in the Capital Region all a good idea of what you guys are able to do on a daily basis.
Well, Chris, I mean, we have some different crews working at Performance Industrial, and kitchen exhaust cleaning is definitely a dirty, greasy job as we're cleaning the ductwork that goes from the actual kitchen to the roof. So it's a greasy, dirty job that the crews handle, but they get them clean, and it's all about safety and fire hazards, and so those crews do a very good job, and our epoxy flooring crews are always busy doing work in fire stations and locker rooms and bathrooms and schools. And we're in a lot of different, industrial type facilities. Over my years, we've seen a lot of different manufacturing processes, which actually make it for a very interesting job, being we're in so many different places.
Yeah, you did the floor at Novice Clothing Company, which is very cool. It's a smaller space, certainly, compared to some of the things you just rattled off. But you do some of the big, most industrious kitchens in the capital region as well when you start to think about big-time restaurants and catering business is in the 518. All right, Ed, here are the picks. You like the Bills here, big number, 9.5 at home. And I understand you may have had a little bit of input by committee on some of these picks. Why Buffalo?
Well, I mean, I think the key is going to be Josh Allen and, not turning the ball over in the red zone, which he was better about that last week. I know he struggled a couple of weeks throwing some interceptions, but, Buffalo's division record, they really need a win. And being at home, I think they're going to put some points on the board and hopefully cover that spread.
We've got a lot in common in these games. Yeah. We're all Eagles, all Bengals, all Vikes here before we differ again.
Yeah, I think the 49ers, I know there's a, big question with the quarterback, but I think Shanahan is, a coach in San Fran that just seems to, no matter who the quarterback is, he always has a very good offensive scheme, and he's able to just put some points up.
Yeah, and you're going to have McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, and there's enough support there offensively to carry Brock Purdy. Let me go back to the Vikings pick here, Ed. Is Minnesota for real in your minds? They're second in the NFC. If Philly were to stumble and the Vikings were to win, they would vault actually into first place in that conference.
I think the Vikings are a lot like the Giants. They don't get a lot of respect. And, that's why I think the spread's even because their record, you would think that they're, would be a big time favorite. But I think that Detroit's just played really well. And, Detroit can put some points up. It's a tough game, but it's hard picking against, the Vikings with, the spread being even.
It's funny that you say that because I feel like what you said about them not getting a lot of respect, it's almost how I feel about them is like, despite the record, I'm just not convinced that they're not for real, but that they're one of the best teams in the NFL. It's hard to wrap your mind around.
Yeah, they just seem to win every week, but they just don't convince anybody that, they're as good as they are.
But then when you watch Justin Jefferson play, you think, okay, this has got to be one of the best teams because this guy's the best receiver in football right now.
No doubt. He had a tough week last week, so we'll see what he does coming back this week.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's one more look, Ed, and that is Dolphins Chargers Sunday night. 6-0 is the number, man, to tie. Your guys are the Pick Six Club up at Saratoga Courage Distillery. That was a perfect number posted a couple of weeks ago. Ed, thanks for doing the show, man. We appreciate your support. Bill Miller, as you know, working with him is as good as it gets, and we love having you as part of the show here each and every week on Onorato & Company.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ed.
That is Ed Revely from Performance Industrial. When we come back here on Onorato & Company, we are jumping into our weekly Firewolf segment. Ethan Walker is our guest this week, and the home opener is not that far off now at the MVP Arena with the Albany Firewolves back in just 30 seconds on Onorato & Company.
The Albany Firewolves professional indoor lacrosse team returns to the Capital Region. Season home opener, Saturday, December 17th at 7 p.m. at the MVP Arena. Get your tickets now at albanyfirewolves.com. Join the pack.
And now back to Onorato and Company. Brought to you by Alpen House.
All right, Ash, I know you are beginning your deep dive into lacrosse season as the sideline reporter for the Albany Firewolves. And so this is a segment that you generally carry on the show. Thankfully, you are as in tune with this team as anybody. A lot of new names, new faces, and yet to play a home game yet, but they are 1-0. And one of the new names and one of the new faces here in the 518 is Ethan Walker, and he is our guest right now on Onorato and Company. Ethan, man, thanks for doing the show. It's good to chat with you. How are you?
Yeah, absolutely. Things are great. Thanks for having me on.
So Ethan's a guy who was on a Georgia team last year, and this is Ethan. The Firewolves hated to see you because between you and Lyle and all of the firepower that was on that Swarm team, I think they were like, you know what, we're going to go get that guy and put him on our team because we don't want to see him all year long. What was game one like for you guys and just kind of getting into the flow? Obviously, it's different to do preseason and training camp, but finally getting out there playing a game, how would you rate that 11-10 win over Buffalo?
You know, it was a hard fought battle for sure. And us coming in, we were definitely a new offense, right? Albany got rid of a lot of guys and they made a couple offseason moves. And, you know, fortunately enough, we came together. We have a young, talented, athletic offense. And I think, you know, that helped us out in the long run. We were able to, you know, sustain long possessions. But, you know, at the end of the day, our defense played great. Dougie Jamieson, you know, the best goalie in the league right now. He stood on his head for us. Our defense was awesome. And, you know, sometimes on offense, you just got to gut one out. And, you know, I thought that we did that over the course of that game against Buffalo.
Are you bummed out when you get traded? What is the emotional roller coaster of, like, you find out you've been traded, maybe you're looking forward still to the next destination, but you're like kind of torn because you're used to being with one group of teammates and now you're going to a different city, a different franchise, a whole different offensive set?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, playing only in the league for, I guess this is my second year, you know, playing 1 year in Georgia and then getting traded, it's definitely a little bit different feeling, right? It's the first time I've been traded in my lacrosse career, so it's definitely a new experience for me. But you know what? At the end of the day, I think it was the right move. I think that I fit in well with Albany and the guys in the locker room. There's a ton of great guys on and off the floor. And, you know, I just think that for me personally, it's a great fit playing for Albany. And not to say that Georgia never treated me right or anything like that, but, you know, being in Albany is a little bit different. And, you know, the coaching staff is great too. And they, you know, see a lot of potential in me, which is nice to see.
Ethan, you brought up Dougie. Have you ever played with him before being on this team?
No, I've never played with him, but I grew up playing against him. So I'm obviously from Peterborough, Ontario. So growing up playing minor lacrosse, he played for Six Nations. You know, we would play them all the time. And, you know, in practice, I still can't even score on them. So it's just one of those things.
I mean, the numbers that I saw, so he had 45 shots against him to Matt Vince's 27. Like, he faced 18 more shots and you guys still won by a goal. When I looked at that to me is like, this is a guy who in the cage changes the game for a team.
Absolutely, he does. I mean, like I said, he played fantastic. Our defense, you know, they still did a great job. Buffalo has a tremendous offense. They have a lot of firepower on their offense. You know, they're able to generate a lot of great scoring opportunities. But, you know, when you're shooting against Dougie Jamieson, it's not that easy to do. And so, you know, we, like, as you mentioned, we didn't get as many shots on Matt Vince as we would have liked to. But at the end of the day, you know, we were able to sneak one out and you know, score more than they did at the end of the day. Right. So, yeah, again, Dougie Jamieson, he was phenomenal in net. And, you know, throughout the season, we're going to see more of that.
Home opener is in a week against Rochester. So you play Buffalo. You get all the New York teams out of the way here. You're going to play Buffalo, and then you're going to play Rochester. It'll be your first home game in Albany. As an athlete, as a player, do you look forward to that? How much of a difference do you kind of feel from, like, okay, this is my first game with a new team in front of the home crowd?
Yeah, absolutely. Playing in front of the home crowd is one of the greatest feelings, you know, having everyone cheering you on, you know, after big goals are scored. It's great to have the crowd get involved. And, you know, especially my first ever game playing in Bandit Land, you know, they're a rowdy crowd and they can they can hype up Buffalo whenever they score, right? And it can be deflating when you're opposing team there, right? So, with that being said, coming to Albany for our home opener here in a couple weekends, it's going to be huge, and all we want is for the crowd to be involved and engaged with us.
Ethan, what are your first impressions of playing for Clarkie? You mentioned the coaching staff and how much they bring, but what is it like playing for him? What kind of coach is he?
Oh, he's a great coach. He's a great leader. He always knows the right things to say, and he has great defensive coaches with him as well. And then obviously on the offensive end, we've been working with Daryl Gibson, who he's a defensive player, but that makes him a great offensive coach because he knows what works, right? So it's a great dynamic that they have going on. And, like I said, Clarkie, he knows the right things to say, and he knows how to get the team fired up, and he's great at, managing the game, taking timeouts at the right time, and all that.
All right, Ethan, we're going to let you run, man. We appreciate you hanging out with us here for a little bit. Ashley will see you on the field on the 17th.
Yep.
And look forward to catching up with you before this season is over again.
Yep. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks,
Ethan Walker, one of the new members of this Albany Firewolves squad that's getting ready to play its home opener on Saturday. Ashley, you've got to be fired up to get back into the swing of things. Your first year with this team last year, of course, it was the first year in Albany for this franchise. And I know you've enjoyed every single bit of being on the sidelines, being part of the game broadcast, and getting to know a lot of the guys.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And these are guys, I always say, like, this is a professional league, and yet they're so accessible and so willing. And so it just makes our job as media easier when the coaches, the players on both sides, the management, the organization, everyone is so willing to kind of help spread the word, not only about the NLL, but box lacrosse, PLL, outdoor lacrosse, the game of lacrosse. It's not, nobody has too big of an ego in this league. It's always so good to be around these guys who are just really happy to spread the game.
Yeah, cool. And of course, we are your home for Firewolves games. My 7:30 face-off. So Onorato & Company on my 4 on Saturday nights takes you from 6 to 7, and then hang out for a little bit, and face-off between the Firewolves and Rochester will be at 7:30 on the 17th. All right, we're back right after this. The college football playoff matchups are set. The spreads are not as big as I thought, especially one game.
Okay.
We'll talk about the matchups and do we think these are going to be good games or not? And then Kevin Herter gets his New York return for the first time as a member of the Sacramento Kings. Back right after this.
The temperatures are dropping, which means the holidays are right around the corner. 'Tis the season at Albany Ski Shop, where you'll receive up to 50% off top ski and snowboard brands like K2, Vocal, Nordica, and LiveTech. And check out our selection of footwear from Muck and UGG, as well as casual and hiking apparel from Patagonia and the North Face. We also have the latest in winter fashion from Fly Low, Marmot, Obermeyer, and Helly Hansen. And an Albany House gift card is the perfect gift for the adventure on your list. Albany House in Amsterdam and Clifton Park.
And now back to Onorato & Company. Brought to you by Albany House.
Yes, crazy old bat, we did notice your absence, but it's great to have you back with us here watching on YouTube. Ryan as well. Good morning, buddy. Yeah, we'll do a podcast. Sure.
No doubt.
Tandem podcast?
Sure.
Yeah.
2 for 1.
Like this. Yeah, I wonder if
by the way,
Gatto was during his act. He should.
Gatto was super funny.
He's a funny guy.
He is. But you couldn't be more wrong about the number of dogs.
So
he doesn't have them, but he doesn't have them living in his house. This is what he kind of explained. It's like a sanctuary. He's basically a nonprofit, and they're old senior dogs in need of some loving. Could you imagine? I would be crawling on the floor, just laying next to all these old dogs who just wanted belly rubs and to eat and live their life happily for however long they had left. It would be. I would give up my day job. It would be my dream.
Are you going to the Pinstripe Bowl? Sam wants to know.
No. I've been to the Pinstripe Bowl before. I went in 2000. I want to say like 08 or 09, whenever I had just graduated. They played Kansas State at Yankee Stadium. To me, the luster's kind of worn off. It's always the Pinstripe Bowl for the Orange, which I guess is cool. I mean, Yankee Stadium is cool, but like it's almost like, okay, go to the Pinstripe Bowl. Minnesota's a good team. It should be a fun game.
Yeah.
But no, I will not be there, Sam.
And Sean Tucker isn't going to play, so why go?
And that's the thing. Like, you're not getting your big guns. Forget it.
I've got Brazil. I'm in a pool, and
how are you doing in that pool?
I picked Brazil. I am 4 points out of first place. I'm in fourth.
Okay. You're within striking distance.
Right. And I'm two of the four have Brazil. I'm one of them.
Okay.
And then the leader does not have Brazil. So that'll kind of give you an idea that I've got a shot to win that thing. All right, the college football playoff rankings, here's how they look finally. Georgia, Michigan, no change. TCU, no change. Ohio State sneaks in with the loss of
USC.
USC. Thank you. It was so long ago now to Utah, I almost forgot. So Ohio State is in, and so these are the matchups we get with the point spreads. Now,
I think they got it right.
This is a small number.
I mean the
on
matchup.
Georgia.
Sorry. I didn't mean the spreads, but
oh yeah, they got it. There was very little to haggle about this year. The people who want to argue TCU should be out for having lost, get out of my face. They played a good Kansas State team. They went to overtime. Okay. They deserve to be in. Now, you want to put them 3 or 4, fine. But they didn't lose at home by more than 20 to a rival. That's Ohio State. The rankings are what they should be. Here are the matchups. Who wins, Ash? I'll ask you now, and then I'll ask you as we get closer to the new year.
Yeah, I'm going to go Michigan, Georgia. I'm going to go both favorites.
Me too. I don't know that Michigan covers. I think Georgia covers without too much of a problem.
Okay. Yeah, I think Michigan could cover. Okay. I think they might.
That's going to be a high-scoring game. I think TCU, Michigan, high-scoring.
Yeah, I agree.
Game. Sunday at the Garden. This isn't so bad. Not a bad way to spend your Sunday.
No.
Kings, Knicks, 6:00 tip at MSG. Kevin Huerter comes to town for the first time wearing that purple and black. Pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. And he's played. Well. He's playing well. I think the Sacramento thing. Listen, the Sacramento Kings are one of the most talked about teams in the NBA right now because of Light the Beam and everything else they've got going on. They have the best record in the state of California. The Clippers, the Warriors, the Lakers, all those teams play in California. Best record in the state of California.
Like that.
Even if it doesn't work out the rest of the way, like they've made themselves known. They've got good talent. Yeah, in terms of like doesn't carry on, it doesn't continue. But
no, they've got staying power.
Yeah,
De'Aaron Fox he's not a superstar, but he's a star.
I just mean I don't know that they're going to outlast the Warriors all season long. Like there are, you know what I mean? There are.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, cool for him to be back. He played in Boston already this season. Yep. So cool for him to be back.
And he's been back to Atlanta, so now he comes back home. And there'll be a ton of family members.
Herder family's got to be there, right?
And yeah, they'll be loving every bit of it, as they absolutely should. All right, so Judge is back with the Yankees. Sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Had to happen, right?
Had to happen.
I
thought it would happen. I was going to be really stunned if he left.
If you're watching us on TV, it may have already happened. This is live on a Thursday morning when we do the show on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Come hang out with us. I'm still holding my breath on Dansby Swanson.
Yep. You watch the MLB Network like it's your job when you get home.
If the Braves don't sign Swanson, it could be a long year in Atlanta. That's how important he is. Have a great weekend, everyone. We're back next week. Thanks for hanging out.